2018 FIFA World Cup celebrates the milestone 100 days of the tournament kickoff in Russia. The 2018 FIFA World Cup will be Fox Sports' largest production in its 24-year history. The tournament airs on Fox and FS1 June 14th to July 15th. We are 100 days out officially as of today. You can see on the perch, I'm not sure if you can see that, I can see that, the Russia 100 days, tickets on sale now. Russia actually from this distance is beautiful.
Really?
Yeah, from 140 feet. I don't know if I'd rather be in Los Angeles, but it is going to be amazing. Holly Saunders joining me. So last night, I do this from time to time, is my job is not just to come out and talk about sports. My job is to, over the course of time and over the course of a year, accumulate information and give it to you. I don't always tell you where I get it, but my job is to accumulate lots and lots of what you would call sources or information. Therefore, what I tell you is more accurate, and by the way, what I tell you is often a step or two ahead of our competitors. That is my job. So last night, I just happened to get lucky and have a beer with a friend, Jed Fish. Jed's been around forever. He used to coach. 40-year-old guy, has a 60-year-old man's experience, college and pro. He could coach either. The Rams have hired him as the quarterback coach. He used to be under Pete Carroll. Nick Saban was going to hire him in Alabama, and on his way out to Tuscaloosa, the Rams called and said, "We want you." He's also friends with Bill Belichick, talks to him fairly regularly. And so we got into an information session last night, most of which is stuff I have to store. It'll make its way onto the show over the next year, but I'm not going to tell you about stuff we talked about. But we did have another conversation for a couple of minutes that I thought was interesting. And I asked him straight out about Bill Belichick. And I saw Belichick at the Combine this weekend, and I just said, Pete Carroll, Sean McVay, the young wizard, Belichick. I said, what makes Belichick special? He said, obviously, he's a very smart guy. It all starts with intellect. He's bright. His parents were bright. His mom spoke 7 languages. His dad was one of the original people in scouting in the NFL. He had really good parents, really smart parents, really well-read parents. He's got a catalog, a library of intellect and information upstairs that just most football coaches aren't close to. But he said, the other thing that gets lost is experience. And he said, all these other teams, not just in their division, but he goes, look at the AFC. They just keep firing coaches and firing coaches and firing coaches. So Belichick is facing a steady stream of 39-year-old, 40-year-old, 41-year-olds, elevated coordinators, sometimes not ready for it. Their first head coaching job. They've been there 6 weeks to 6 months, and Belichick's been there 15, 16, 17 years. And to just give you an example, this is why I said the Cleveland Browns shouldn't fire Hugh Jackson. And, of course, Cleveland fans are wackadoos and have no idea what they're talking about. So they're like, fire him, fire him. I said, no. You're Cleveland. At this point, you're such a joke in the league. It doesn't matter if there's 4 good candidates. You won't get any of them. Hugh Jackson is better than the 6th best choice available on the market. You don't get top candidate. Nobody's going to – you think Belichick is ever going to give one of his assistants, let him go to Cleveland? No. You're never going to get it. And the reason Cleveland doesn't get a top candidate isn't because Cleveland's a bad city. Players like playing there. It's because you're chaos. Because nobody believes they'll get an extra year. And by keeping Hugh Jackson 0-16, you're sending the messages, we're growing up here. You're not going to win next year anyway. And you weren't going to get the best candidate. So what you show to the rest of the scouts is if you move your wife and kids here, even if you go 0-16, we're growing up here. Of course, Brown fans didn't get it. They never do. They always want to fire the GM and fire the coach and get a new quarterback. The last one they need to. But just to give you a sense, when I was talking to Jed last night, I'm just going to give you the AFC. This is just the AFC, which Belichick faces more of. These are the number of head coaches, counting interim, they have had in 15 years. Raiders 11, Bills 10, Dolphins 9, Browns 9, Jags, Chiefs, Broncos 6, and the Broncos are stable. Jets 5, Titans 5, Colts 5, Chargers 5. Now, here's what's interesting. Since 2000, who are the most stable teams? Baltimore and Pittsburgh, 2 AFC teams that also have Super Bowls. Isn't that interesting? Just a coincidence, isn't it? Isn't that interesting? It is not a coincidence. By the way, John Harbaugh, in the 5 years since he's won the Super Bowl, has missed the playoffs 4 times. They'd fire him in Cleveland. They'd fire him in Oakland. They'd fire him in Buffalo. They'd fire him in Kansas City. They'd fire him in Jacksonville. 5 years post-Super Bowl, 4 times didn't make the playoffs. By the way, Mike Tomlin has been humiliated against Belichick. They'd fire him in Oakland. They'd fire him in Miami. They'd fire him in Cleveland. They'd fire him in Jacksonville.
Wow.
And when I'm having dinner last night, he said, yes, he's a really smart guy. But he goes, just look at the AFC. He's constantly facing a guy who's just starting, who'd only been a coordinator. It is not a coincidence that the three teams that have not had chaos, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, New England, are the ones generally winning the loot in the AFC. Here's Holdy with the news.
No. Heard on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
All right, Colin, you were just talking about the Browns. So they have the first overall pick in the draft. And there was a lot of debate on whether they should draft a quarterback or take Saquon Barkley with that first pick. However, It's being reported that Coach Hugh Jackson would prefer if the Browns signed Bengals backup quarterback A.J. McCarron. He was Cincy's offensive coordinator, Colin. He's familiar with A.J. What do you think? Could they have Saquon and A.J.?
Well, A.J. is absolutely a step up from what they have, and they have a relationship. What it's telling you is, hey, everybody, we're open for business with the number one pick. This is signaling, whether this is true or not, Holly, what this is telling the league is, call us. That we don't love any of these quarterbacks that much that we wouldn't consider getting more picks and moving down to 4. Is A.J. McCarron the long-term answer against Ben Roethlisberger? I don't think so in division. But I think this is a signal. I think they should get Sam Darnold. But it is a signal to the rest of the league is, if you call us, we'll pick the phone up.
All right, moving on. The Cleveland Cavs took on the Pistons and blew them out 112-90. Okay. New Cav and former Laker Larry Nance Jr. had a career night. It was his first career start.
Yep.
Did a great job. 22 points, 11 rebounds. And LeBron James was very impressed with his new teammate. Take a listen.
High energy plays is what he's all about. I mean, he's very fast, athletic, and puts himself in a position to be successful on the floor. He's always in the right spots. And, for us, we just try to, if we break the defense down, just try to put it up there for him or a lob or, if the 5 minutes sagging off on him, we try to get him the ball where he can get his shots. But, he makes a lot of energy and effort plays by just being himself, and that results in good things for our team.
Colin, are we hyping this too much?
Yeah, but they have actually played. If you watch and again, Detroit's a fairly limited team. Andre Drummond, Blake Griffin's about what they have in their roster. Stan Van Gundy's a good coach. I'm not sure if he's great, though he's been labeled great before. My takeaway on this is I still contend I'll take LeBron in Cleveland. You guys can have everybody else in the East. I know I am increasingly on an island with that, but if you go back 1 year ago, Holly, 1 year ago, Cleveland had a losing record after the All-Star break, and Kevin Love was coming off a knee surgery. It's very similar. They're going to finish around 500 or worse. They got a tough roadie coming up. Kevin Love's coming off surgery. And by the way, is Boston significantly better than last year? They've got all new pieces. I don't think they are. And I didn't buy Toronto last year, and I don't buy Toronto this year.
And finally, the Lakers were in control last night with the Trailblazers until Damian Lillard, you already touched on this, just decided to lose his mind in the fourth quarter, dropped 15 straight points. 19 of his 39 points came in the under 8-minute mark in that fourth quarter. So here he is on his mindset a little bit in that fourth quarter. He'll tell you about it.
We had to kind of just get really aggressive, try to make a run for it. We don't try to make a run for it at that point. Take it, come down, hit a three, or whatever could happen, and the game could get away from you. So I figured, why not let's go now and live with whatever happens. I was able to get it going. I looked at the clock, and there was a lot of time left. I was like, I'm about to try to take this on one and bring it home.
He was absolutely ridiculous. And by the way, he was ridiculous to start the game. He was ridiculous to end the game. He was, Damian's one of these guys, plays up in the Pacific Northwest. He didn't get talked about because the Blazers finally now have a good team. They got some good bigs. He is remarkable. If he played in New York City, if he played in Chicago, people would pay so much more attention to him. He was ridiculous last night. Ridiculous.
But what do you think of the Trailblazers altogether?
They're
in
okay.
The
They're just not good enough defensively. If you have good guard play, They're a very limited team, backcourt defense. They duplicate what they are. They have C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard are kind of the same guy, in the backcourt, both offensively gifted. Damian's better. Neither one wants to play a ton of defense. Their bigs are pretty solid. They can win a series max. They have a great coach in Terry Stott. But I think they're a one. It depends on who they match up with.
Mm-hmm.
If they match up with who would they match up with right now? Like if Oklahoma City played Portland, I would take Portland.
You would.
Who is it? Minnesota. Well, Jimmy Butler's not around, so that's a very close. I'd probably take Minnesota, but that's a long series.
All right, nice and tidy. That's the news.
All right, Holly with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line
Say
News.
goodbye to Takeout. Hello to HelloFresh. Healthy ingredients, easy to follow recipes, free shipping, $30 off your first box. HelloFresh.com/Colin. Chris Broussard, let's bring him on the show today. So I'm watching the Lakers last night, and I'm watching the Blazers. And Damian's going off. And Isaiah's sitting there thinking, get mine. And
I used to do that.
Isaiah Thomas was bad last night. And this goes to my point, is that, Isaiah was loved, and he was a great story, and there's the tragedy, and he's a 5'8" guy, and we love. And by the way, every time he opens up his mouth, you want to hug him. Like, he's a good dude. And then last night I'm watching him, I'm like, okay, Lakers had been red hot, and they had that game secured. Isaiah Thomas last night, I contend that's why LeBron struggled with him.
Well, it's tough for guys that think of themselves as the number one option to play with LeBron. This is the question. I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but I think you'll like this. This is the issue about him going to Houston. Is James Harden going to step aside and say, okay, I'm number two?
To LeBron?
Yeah.
Well, James Harden is great.
No question.
Isaiah Thomas is good.
No, he's not in Harden's class, but that wherever LeBron goes, whoever the superstar is there has to be ready to step back and say, okay, I'm the second guy. If it were Kevin Durant, and I know it won't be in Golden State, but Durant would be a little different because he can catch and shoot and he could play off of a guy like that. But a guy that needs to handle it a lot is going to have his issues playing with LeBron.
And by the way, you're not going off because this is a really good point. This is why I've never bought Houston. We would both acknowledge LeBron's smart.
Yeah.
Now, he can be cryptic. He can be a little passive-aggressive. A lot of smart people are. He's not as confrontational as, say, a Kobe or an MJ. He's not going to punch guys in practice. LeBron knows what you're saying. And he knows the Lakers point guard isn't a shooter. This is why I keep saying the Lakers would be Cleveland players where they look up to LeBron with talent.
If
Kuzma,
he and George.
Yes. The Houston thing never works for me, Chris, because if you believe LeBron is smart, and I do, he's played with Kyrie. He's played with ball-centric Isaiah Thomas. He knows deep down that Houston thing, we'd have no bench, and it would be weird.
Well, yeah, and James Harden, right, look, he's going to be the MVP. He thinks in his mind he should have had at least two.
Yes.
Because the players voted him a few years ago. I voted him a few years ago in 2015 when Steph won his first. So, yeah, that's an issue there. Look, with Lonzo, if Lonzo keeps shooting the three-pointer the way he is, that's perfect to play next to LeBron.
Perfect.
Because
LeBron wants you to be able to hit threes, but doesn't want you to be ball-centric.
Yep. And Lonzo, obviously, even though he's a real point guard, he gets rid of the ball quickly. He moves the ball quickly. So that could work. LeVar, look, I've said before, I think that could be a deterrent. It's not a deal breaker.
Okay, so now
it's not a deal breaker.
That's the news story.
That's breaking news.
Okay, can we have breaking news on that? Because this story is about.
It's not a deal. I'm not saying it's
Breaking news.
I'm just saying LeVar is not a deal breaker that would keep LeBron away from him.
So you just didn't throw that out.
No,
that came from sourcing.
I talked to people.
Okay, because I talked to a football coach last night. You talked to basketball people.
Yes.
So LeVar's not a deal breaker.
Not a deal breaker.
My theory was.
I mean, you know, he obviously he could come out and start saying all types of crazy stuff from here on. But right now, you know, it's all right.
It's all right.
If the team looks good, and if this looks like the right basketball fit, LeVar will not be a deal breaker.
Okay, because I was saying this yesterday to Gottlieb, and I said my wife is into design. Okay, so we've had a couple houses, and she's redone houses. And when she does it, she doesn't want a total rebuild. You got to give her a yard. You got to give her a decent bathroom. LeBron needed to see two things with the Lakers. He didn't want a total rebuild. He needed to see, Lonzo can play. Lonzo can play. He needed to see Brandon Ingram pop. He went from 9 to 16 points.
Well, yes.
So LeBron needed to see a little bit of a nice yard, got a decent kitchen. I don't have to bulldozer this thing. He's not going to go.
So you got him here.
No.
You're back on LeBron.
Okay, I talked to a football coach who told me last night he's coming. That's how much I know. No, I do believe LeBron needed two signals. And in the last 2 weeks, LeBron. He sits home and watches. That Cavs game's over. He went home and watched the Lakers last night.
You know who else needed signals?
Who?
Paul George. And the signal is that they're cascading down the standings. And, I mean, I can't fathom they won't make the playoffs. But right now, it's in question. But let me ask you this. If you're LeBron, you think the Lakers is definitely better than Philly?
Big difference. I got two homes in L.A. Ingram doesn't have an injury issue. Lonzo doesn't have a history of injury issues. Joel Embiid does, and Ben Simmons can't shoot threes. LeBron wants to go LA's a better fit. He's here all summer. So let's just start with that.
A lot of players are, though.
Well, they don't have 25 million homes. And
Derrick Rose is here in the summer. You want him?
I don't want him. But LeBron, Ben Simmons is great, can't shoot. Well, LeBron's not a three-point specialist. This is working out. Ingram hits threes. Lonzo hits threes. Kuzma hits threes. LeBron doesn't want to go to a total bulldozing project. He wants to go to a young emerging roster. I can argue for Philly, but Embiid and Simmons don't hit threes, and it's a three-point. You're not.
But you got a lot of. You could surround them with 3-and-D guys.
LA's got them right now, and they're young and they're cheap, meaning I can bring another star in. All right, let's shift to this. Chris Mannix is an NBA guy. Now, he covers the Celtics a lot, so he loves Boston. And I'm kind of cool on Boston right now until Gordon Hayward gets back next year. He's not going to play this year. So this is Chris Mannix on First Things First. He didn't buy this Cleveland team at all.
Your refusal to kind of acknowledge how bad the Cavs are defensively and how problematic that's going to be in the playoffs continues to astound me.
What were the Cavs defensively after the All-Star break last year, man?
I don't care.
29.
They were
29.
Kyrie Irving.
And that was a defensive
who could carry them in bad games. Right now, the starting lineup includes two guys that have never experienced high-level playoffs, Rodney Hood and Larry Nance Jr. You're telling me you're sure that this Cavs team walks into the playoffs and defends at a high level? This Cavs team, Nick, has a better chance of losing in the first round than playing at a high level defensively.
I think he's crazy. What do you think?
He's off his rocker.
Yeah.
I love Chris, but here's the thing. He mentioned the Cavs have two guys in their starting lineup that haven't experienced high-level playoff basketball. So does Boston. Jaylen Brown, I mean, do you want to give him that much credit for last year, his play in the playoffs? And Jason Tatum. Tatum has already hit a wall. So you got a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old who, talented-wise, they're great, and they will be great going forward. But it's almost unprecedented for a team whose second and third leading scorers are 19 and 20 years old to get to the finals. Whose supporting cast is better? Well, let me back up. LeBron is by far the best player in the East, right?
Easily.
By a mile, okay? His supporting cast is better than Kyrie's supporting cast.
And that's right now. Kevin Love's coming back.
Yes.
Kevin Love had a surgery last year. Kevin Love is a borderline all-star in the East.
Oh, he's a perennial all-star in the East.
Okay, so they're getting him back in 10 days.
And he will, as we talked about before on the show many times, he will be the definitive second option. And that's where he thrives.
And that's where he's happy.
His inconsistency comes is when he's a third option. You know, it's LeBron, it's Kyrie, then me. It's LeBron, Isaiah, then me. It will be LeBron, Kevin Love. And he'll give you his 20 and 10. And then you got Larry Nance Jr., who should remain in the starting lineup when Tristan gets back. Love at center, Nance at the 4, LeBron at 3. Here's where I agree with Mannix. The two things I want to see from Cleveland going forward. One, they should not be a three-point defending or reliant team. You see this graph? Look at that. They're 15 and 22 when they hit fewer than 13 three-pointers. Only one team in the league hits 13 three-pointers a night, and that's Houston because they shoot 42 of them. Cleveland has enough scores straight up create their own shot, go off the dribble, also can hit mid-range shots, scores. LeBron, Rodney Hood, Jordan Clarkson. They got enough guys like that now where they shouldn't be, if we don't hit threes, we lose. And that's what they've been. And that's because their offense has been built that way. Last night, I liked it. I think the last few games, they've been different. There's been more cutting. Larry Nance cutting to the basket, getting some passes from LeBron. LeBron cutting to the basket. I want to see a more balanced team offensively. And then I want to see consistency on the defensive end.
Listen, they're 5-4 since all these new band members joined. They're fine. They have a road trip coming up where they got to go to awful Phoenix, and they have a chance to beat Phoenix and the Lakers and the Clippers and, like, Chicago. I think we're freaking out. This is what I said yesterday about Duke basketball. Every time Duke loses, lead Sports Center, they lose by 2 points in the road. The fans dump on the floor. It's great video. It goes viral, and we're like, oh, Duke's in big trouble. Do you realize Duke's one of 4 teams that can win 6 games? And when they get seeded next week, everybody's going to fall in love with the dark horses. There's about 4 to 5 teams that can win 6 games. Duke's got 3 pros.
You make a good point. The problem with a lot of the sports nowadays is we treat every game like it's college football.
And it's not.
You know, yeah, like if they lose Wednesday at Denver, there'll be an uproar, right? Like they lost at Alabama, you know, in week 10 of the football season. It's not the same. So I'm with you there, but their defense should be consistent. They've been awful 2 of the last 4 games and good 2 of the last 4 games. There's no excuse now for that level of inconsistency on the defensive end.
His name is Chris Broussard. It's good seeing you, bud. By the way, top of the hour, I've got a new mock draft. I used to mock drafts, but they were so bad I had to create my own. I was just frustrated. That's coming up, Chris Broussard. When I say Dollar Shave Club, if the first thing that pops into your head is an amazing, affordable shave, that's great, and that's what they branded it for the last 4 or 5 years. But now they want to own the bathroom, and they've got shave butter, and they've got stuff for your hair, and they've got body cleanser. And that's what they wanted to do, and that's what they're now doing. They know they've got the razor. So what they're doing for a rare and mind-blowing experience, if you join the Dollar Shave Club today for just $5, that's free shipping, you'll get the 6-blade executive razor, and they're going to give you trial-size versions of the shave butter and body cleanser. And then after that, you keep the blades coming, a few bucks a month. Get yours at dollarshaveclub.com/COLIN. Own in the bathroom. That's dollarshaveclub.com/Colin. More than just razors now.